Welcome, everyone, to our seminars for the Non-Residential Scholars Program for Ukraine. We are very grateful to the Big Ten Academic Alliance, the Senior International Officers Group, for sponsoring our program this year, and we are equally grateful to all of the 9 universities in the Big Ten Academic Alliance who have also signed on and are supporting the program. It's my pleasure to introduce our first speaker today. It is Dr. Roman Revera. He's Associate Professor in the Department of International Economic Relations at the Faculty of International Relations at Ivan Franko National University of Lviv in Lviv, Ukraine. And Dr. Rivera teaches in the areas of trade policy and commercial diplomacy, and his research interests include economic growth, productivity, international trade, digitalization, and the economic resilience of Ukraine in wartime, which of course is the topic of his lecture today. He will speak for about 45 minutes and then leave ample time for questions at the end of his presentation. And I would like to note that Dr. Rivera's participation in the fellowship program this year is made possible by Indiana University and specifically the Department of Economics. So Dr. Rivera, thank you so much for joining us today, and we look forward to your talk.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Svetlana, for having me here. Thank you for non-residential scholarship program for Ukraine. Very helpful, very beneficial for me personally. I have opportunity to deepen my scientific interests that are nowadays in wartime to help Ukraine to be more resilient. So my presentation is economic resilience of Ukraine in the conditions of war, restorations of export potential. You are welcome to contact me to my corporate email. So I suggest the following content: geopolitical and geoeconomic dimensions of Ukraine, factors motivated Russia's invasion of Ukraine, what really matter, and projecting Ukraine's economic resilience strategy. Briefly about first issue, I will be very brief because this research is rather large. So this presentation is about 60 slides. So I will be very brief. If some of our colleagues will have questions, can discuss more deeply, or I can share my presentation. Okay, so let's start from geographical dimensions. Size and distance of Ukraine matter. Ukraine is the largest country in Europe. Also, where is the geographical center of Europe? One of variants. The geographical center of Europe is in Ukraine, village Delaware in West Ukraine. Also, resource dimension of Ukraine. Ukraine holds about 15 trillion US dollars worth of natural resources. All of what is needed is investments. Soil dimension of Ukraine. Black soils are 2.4% of all soils in the world, and about 60% of Ukraine's territory. The most fertile black soils are in Iowa, United States, and Ukraine, according to University of California research. So we can say that this is again next resource of Ukraine, black soil. Also about population dimension of Ukraine, that is, so population of Ukraine is increasing from 1991 due to a few reasons. First, collapse of Soviet Union, 1991, then war, 2014, and full-scale war 2022. Um, Human capital dimension of Ukraine and the problem of brain drain from Ukraine. According to the EU, Ukraine is top source of highly skilled migrants in Europe. Ukraine has one of the highest rates of tertiary education in Europe, but many graduates fly abroad due to limited funding at home. Many Ukrainian academics and researchers leaving for safer and better funded institutions in Europe and North America. Before the full-scale war, Ukraine had 200,000 IT professionals, but many have relocated to Europe and United States. A lot of young people are leaving Ukraine. So this is a diagram of a human flight and brain drain index. So you can see that this index jumped up greatly in 2023, 2024. So due to the Russians' occupation of Ukraine. Also, we can see from this graph that human flight and brain drain index of Ukraine is the highest among European countries. Also, technological dimension of Ukraine. Let's see what have Ukrainian engineers created. Ukraine was one of the few countries in the world with full rocket production cycle from rocket fuel to spacecrafts. So Ukraine created intercontinental ballistic missile called Satan, as per NATO, 32 meters long. Also, Ukraine created cruise missile Neptune that eliminated Russian flagship Moscow in 2022. Ukraine creates drones of eighth generation of war, unmanned systems, air, sea, and land. Also, Ukrainians were behind WhatsApp, Yancom, and PayPal, Max Levchin, that were born in Kiev or near Kiev. Also, we want to figure out about economic dimension of Ukraine in 2022. We observed a sharp decrease in GDP at 29%. In recent years, the economy of Ukraine is recovering gradually and becomes more resilient. Business expectation index is gradually growing, but we still have a lot of economic problems, including negative balance of trade and war risks for investors. Military dimension of Ukraine, peacekeeping missions, mm, um, About 45,000 Ukrainian militaries participated at 27 international peacekeeping and security operations since 1991. So we can say that Ukrainian militaries are rather skilled. And this is evidence that Ukraine is fighting against the second world largest army in the world, 11 years already, due to Ukrainians' military's high quality, I would say. So according to our president, Ukraine has the largest army in democratic Europe, 880,000 militaries plus as more than 300,000 militaries of other enforcement forces. And this is a kind of resilience again that Ukrainian soldiers keep fighting with 11 times larger aggressor, 11 years already. Also, we want to briefly to describe factors motivated Russia's invasion of Ukraine, what really matters. So the first is the resources of Ukraine that we already mentioned. Ukraine possesses significant natural resources, including fertile land, mineral deposits, and energy reserves. Also, next argument is deep ports in Odessa. Three deepest Black Sea ports are in Odessa, crucial for trade and navy. Russia tried to reach Odessa in 2022 but failed. Azov Sea and Crimean ports are not deep at all. Next reason of Russia's invasion, as per my opinion, is dreaming of great Russia empire, as well as preventing Western alignment of Ukraine. Russia has long opposed Ukraine's closer ties with the West, EU, and NATO. Russia tries to maintain its influence in the region. The next reason is historical and ideological factors. To control Ukraine means to control Ukrainian heritage, including the heritage of Great Rus, were sent in Kiev. Psychological factors of Russians' aggression often related to inferiority complex, lack of dignity, psychological defects of Russian militaries is evidenced by their war crimes, tortures of war prisoners, and inhuman violence against civilians. We wonder, are these psychological defects of Russian soldiers only? As Russian polls show, the Putin's war against Ukraine is supported by two-thirds of Russian citizens. I was recently in Sweden, Uppsala University, and I had the opportunity to communicate with a lot of psychological scientists there. So they have very strong psychological school in Uppsala University, and they confirmed that inferiority complex is related with aggression. So my hypothesis has some evidence. Also, then the last reason why Russia invaded Ukraine is human capital of Ukraine. I would like to quote Vladimir Lenin. Lenin, a leader of the Bolshevik Revolution in 1917, he said, if we lose Ukraine, we lose our head. Mikhail Gorbachev, the last leader of Soviet Union, said that there could be no Soviet Union without Ukraine. I also want to quote the book of French traveler Marquis Astolphe de Custine in 19th century. He noted Russian mind itself cannot create anything, only copy. Ukrainian intellectual elite were key innovators in all times, from Russian Empire, Soviet Union, and until the war in 2014. Let me briefly talk about my main topic, economic resilience. We need why we discussed about Ukraine today, Ukraine's dimension, and about the Russian reasons of invasion, because we need to understand from what we, Ukraine, need to be resilient. That's why let's now we understand our enemy's profile. We understand what is Ukraine now, and we can plan strategies of Ukraine's economic resilience. I would like to mention the following chapters of economic resilience of Ukraine. First, export recovery. Initially, I planned only to discuss about export recovery, but only this chapter would not show enough economic resilience. Is why I want to present the whole strategy. And if colleagues want to talk more deeply about some chapter, we can do it. So, I suggest the following economic resilience strategy that include exports recovery, infrastructure rebuilding, human capital and labor return, focus on top 10 technological industries. Economic reforms are needed. Economic sanctions against Russia are needed. We need to stop of Russia's fossil fuels export revenues funding the war. Aid to Ukraine, military, financial, and humanitarian. Defense tech cooperation, Ukraine and allies. Let's talk about export recovery. Export recovery challenges in wartime, macroeconomic challenges, supply chain disruptions, reduced economic activity in Ukraine, increased costs of doing business, instability of electricity supply, labor shortage, reduced foreign investments due to war risks. I suggest all colleagues know all this very personally or from media. So let's go further. Trade and logistic challenges, the blockade of Ukrainian Black Sea ports, manning the sea area, shelling of the port infrastructure and vessels, infrastructure destruction of ports, roads, and bridges, increased transportation costs, loss of Ukraine's traditional export market. So Ukraine exported to mainly, before the war, Ukraine exported mainly to South and East Asia, by large vessels, and blockade of ports closed this good business. And we need to shift exports to land border with EU, but they are also not so simply traffic jams at the border for trucks and railway. Ukraine's railway gauge is different than EU's standard, as well as we faced cases of blockades of border by Polish farmers. Next problem, trade and logistics problem is what I say delays with reimbursement of VAT for exporters due to Ukrainian state budget deficit. As far as I know, United States do not have VAT for imports as well, and no reimbursement for exporters. But Ukraine and European countries do have, and this is 20%. So if exporters do not reimburse 20% of their assets, so this is shortage of assets. Let's discuss briefly about export recovery strategies that Ukraine managed to do. First, recovery of Ukrainian Black Sea ports and shipping by sea, thanks to destruction of Russian Black Sea fleet by Ukrainian sea drones. Ukraine had no navy in Black Sea, but 30% of Russian navy was destroyed by small Ukrainian sea drones. This is new generation of war, as also United States generals are claiming. But still, we need aviation to block to block Russian missiles and securing Black Sea transit. We also need anti-aircraft systems in Odessa ports, protecting from Russian missiles. Second strategy that Ukraine did is diversification of trade partners to reduce reliance on traditional markets in Asia and to explore new opportunities in the EU and emerging countries. Economies. Third, trade cooperation with the EU. Ukraine increased trade with European countries greatly. Also, Ukraine supported exporters to promote export credit guarantees and to reimburse VAT to exporters automatically. Also, digitalization of trade, digital customs procedures to reduce bureaucracy, e-governance. For example, Ukrainian platform DIA expanded public services for individuals and businesses, e-commerce, and digital financial inclusion that is promoting in Ukraine. Number six, international advocacy strategy. This is more diplomatic and political issues. Seven, infrastructure development, recovery of roads, railways, ports, building new border checkpoints with the EU as our main trading partner. And of course, Ukraine's efforts to join the EU and NATO. Infrastructure rebuilding, very important as well, chapter of economic resilience. Infrastructure rebuilding to be on principle better than before due to reparations paid by aggressor to Ukraine. According to World Bank, Ukraine lost more than 600 billion US dollars, and Ukraine needs a bit more than 500 billion US dollars. But all this uh, by end of 2024. So these costs do not cover damages of 2025. Human capital and labor return strategies. We suggest that how it can be possible targeted investments to create new jobs into key sectors benefiting from Ukraine's purchasing power parity, so-called PPP ratio, PPP advantage of Ukraine. What does it mean? It means, for example, Ukraine's GDP in current US dollars and GDP purchasing power parity in current international dollars in 2024 is so GDP in current dollars, GDP PPP purchasing power parity is 3.44 times more than GDP. In other words, Ukraine to produce in Ukraine, so Ukrainian costs are 3.5 times less than, for example, production costs in United States. So, for example, in Ukraine, we can, for the same money, for the same investments, we can produce 3.5 times more than, for example, in United States. So this could be advantage to save to save money helping Ukraine. For example, if we need military weapons, we can produce them cheaper, 3.5 times cheaper in Ukraine than produce them in United States. The next element of human capital and labor return is support of small and medium-sized enterprises due to special programs like tax breaks, grants, and low-interest loans supported with special economic zones in some safe areas of Ukraine, rather safe areas of Ukraine, West Ukraine, or Zakarpattia. Next chapter of our economic resilience strategy is we need having limited resources. We can focus only in top industries that are most beneficial. So we claim that we need to focus only on 10 top tech industries. Ukrainian Ministry of Digital Transformation declared these top 10 tech industries as defense tech, medical tech, biotech, education tech, governance tech, agro, food tech, cybersecurity, semiconductors, artificial intelligence, and green industries. So these industries could be beneficial for Ukraine that are increasing rapidly and as well as their profits. Economic reforms in Ukraine are needed for example, in August, in 1 month ago, 1 month ago, I participated in reviewing so-called action plan of economic resilience of Ukraine. This is initiative of Ukrainian government, and I suggested to add the following issues to allow direct export of defense tech products not purchased by the Ukrainian government for military needs, because Ukrainian innovators created a lot of prototypes of drones and weapons, and they are not purchased by Ukrainian government due to limited budget. But these prototypes are rather valuable, and they can be sold abroad, and a lot of cash can Ukraine obtain, and help to be and this can help Ukraine to be more economically resilient. Also, next suggestion of mine was to boost the digital financial inclusion, also called fintech, in sake of financial stability and productivity growth. EU sanctions against Russia, or in this our content, I would say Western sanctions against Russia, include individual sanctions against Russians, including Putin, Lavrov, ministries, militaries, etc., against entities like political parties, armed forces, parliamentary groups, against 45 Russian banks. But you may know that Russia has 308 banks operating in Russia. So the EU sanctions banned only 15% of Russian banks. Also immobilized Russian assets, about 300 billion US dollars. Also sanctions about some Russian sectors. Very important for Ukraine to be more economically resilient is when Russia will be less economically resilient, because what is bad for enemy is good for us. The main source of Russian economic resilience is fossil fuels export revenues. Some job is done here, but I would say not enough. For example, what was done, lowering the oil price cap for Russian crude oil from $60 to 47.6 US dollars. Also, transaction ban for Nord Stream 1 and 2. Import ban on refined oil products derived from Russian crude oil. Ban of more than 400 vessels of Russia's shadow fleet. But in fact, this shadow fleet is uh, more than 550 tankers, shadow tankers. Also, recently, EU introduced new program, so-called full-fledged listing of the shadow fleet value chain, including freezing assets of people, individuals, and entities involved in the shadow fleet and circumvention of sanctions, but implementation of this initiative is very important. We can talk about this issue many hours. So Russia's fossil fuels exports are due from the full-scale invasion is now about 1 trillion US dollars revenues from Russian fossil fuel exports, and 23% of these revenues are from European Union. We can say that since the EU decreased imports of Russian fossil fuels greatly, Russia managed to shift exports of fossil fuels to China, India, and Turkey that are responsible for 74% of Russian total revenues from fossil fuel exports. Shadow fleet is very important for Russia, and Western alliance need to do this. Recently, some good drones attacked a Russian oil tanker in Baltic Sea. You may read this in the media. So Ukraine also can do something here to destroy a Russian shadow fleet. What we can recommend here to decrease more price cap from 40 something US dollar per barrel to 25, 30 US dollar per barrel, and still Russia will have a profit in at this price. And this profit is financing the barbaric war of Russia. Also, we need to ban all shadow fleet fully and to introduce harsh penalties and secondary sanctions against countries banning Russian oil. Otherwise, we will see very long war. Because Russia has still potential to fight. Next chapter is aid to Ukraine. I would be very brief here, so we can see the graphs here of two main sponsors of Ukraine, United States and Europe, and Europe's aid is more than twice more than United States. As you know, the United States stopped aid of Ukraine in the beginning of 2025. So Europe's aid increased almost twice. Also, we can see what is heroes what a country is supporting Ukraine. It is United States and Germany. Um, in absolute numbers, if we are talking about relevant numbers as percentage of of countries' GDP, so the heroes supporting Ukraine are Denmark, Estonia, and Lithuania. Um, let's talk briefly about defense tech cooperation, Ukraine and allies. Our expert team suggests five fields of defense tech cooperation of Ukraine and allies. First, fleet, new generation weapons, artificial intelligence in military applications, space technologies, and energy. So you may know about Ukrainian fleet, unmanned combat vessels, Sea Baby, Magora V7, and Katran. So this vessel destroyed 30 or 33, one set of Russian Black Sea fleet. Uh, Also, new generation weapons in 2025, Ukraine to produce 3,000 missiles, 30,000 long-range drones, 4.5 million FPV drones. Uh, so actually, we need to focus now on ballistic missiles that can reach the targets. Um, so you know, may know also the story about Ukrainian cruise missile Neptune that destroyed Russian flagship Moscow. Also, Ukraine's artificial intelligence in military application, in particular platform Avengers to detect enemy equipment and combat machine gun volley with artificial intelligence. Also, long-range strike drones duty with that are guided but by AI. Um, drones interceptors with artificial intelligence, so this is more technical issues. Also about space technologies, Ukraine has good school and production factories. So Ukrainian Zenit and Cyclone booster rockets delivered satellites into orbit. So Ukraine supported to United States Antares rockets as well as European Vega launch vehicles. So nowadays, Ukraine created so-called software Delta for military purposes, very innovative and was for NATO um, generals. So they expect. So they how to say checked this delta and said there was enough. Also about Ukraine's energy resilience, so natural gas, underground gas storages of Ukraine, as well as hydrogen production. So this is other projects that can help Ukrainian economic resilience. So I'm very sorry the time is almost over for my speech. So I will only 1 more minute to conclude. Ukraine shows impressive resilience, not only military but also economic, to survive and keep doing business during 11 years of war and fourth year of full-scale war. So Ukraine need to focus on key industries like defense tech, agriculture, and IT sector. So Ukrainian economic resilience will not or is not only important for Ukraine but also for world to ensure world food security as Ukraine is fifth largest supplier of food in the world. So Ukraine is producing a lot of prototypes of drones and missiles that are also valuable for our allies. So we are dependent and we need cooperation with our allies. So this is greatly important. So this is mainly what I want to say, and would be glad to answer your questions or to hear your suggestions and comments. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ramon. You've shared some really, really important information with all of us. And now we do have a few minutes for question and answer or discussion of this important topic. So please, colleagues, if you have feedback, um, reactions, comments, questions for Dr. Rivera, please go ahead and raise your hand and we'll get started. And Ramon, maybe stop sharing your screen
Okay, good.
and we can.
Mhm.
All right. Oh, Marta Dimitrishan, hello. Good to see you. I see you have your hand up. Please go ahead.
Yes, thank you. My question will be regarding the possible export development. We have recently investigated the problems in sheep farming in Ukraine, mostly in Carpathians. And the founder of the Shepherd Association told that they have a problem when they produce raw leather and raw wool, and they sell this wool to Chinese, for instance. They do some operation in it and sell back again to Ukraine. And the same situation is with leather. When they sell the leather to Poland, and after the finished product come back to Ukraine. So, what, in your opinion, we can possibly do to ensure the export of the finished materials, of the finished products, not only raw materials, after they come back? What can we do to leave this added value in Ukraine mostly? Thank you.
Thank you, Marta. As from the economic point of view and from my personal trading experience, I was trader. Before the war, 10 years, I traded Ukrainian grains and oils and oil seeds worldwide. I want to say, so I had such question a lot, many times. Why Ukraine exports wheat or oil, but not oil in bottles or how to say bread, or for at least wheat flour, not just wheat grains. But I will tell you that wheat and the wheat flour are two different businesses. Let's see about the margin, the profit of first business wheat in Ukraine. I would share with you some insight information that Ukrainian farmer has profit 100% annual. What is profit of factory producing wheat flour? I investigated and this is about 20%. So Ukrainian farmer producing and exporting wheat is having 5 times more profit than producer of wheat flour. We understand that bread is not possible to export because bread is very, how to say, has a lot of value added, of course, but it is not possible to export. It is local production. About leather, as you mentioned, maybe so there are some cases of this, but my friend of mine, we studied with him at international relations at Lviv University. Now he is head of the company called I don't tell you the company name because this is so his factory is processing leather for BMW, Audi, and other German automobile producers. So he is doing leather, how to say, salons in interior of cars. And this is a transnational corporation having factories in Ukraine. So my friend is chief of this affiliate, as well as in European Union, as well as South America, etc. And so he is exporting end product. Still, in near Lviv, his factory is working, not counting alarms and electricity shortages. They are doing business and they are supplying Germany on time. So I would say you that we have even good examples. You have not good examples. I have good examples. So you are right and I am right, maybe. So, but of course, if we will do more value added here, we would benefit, but if possible. Let's see, but let's, for once in the last example, United States, Canada, they also export raw materials like wheat, corn, soybeans, oil, gas, all these raw materials. They do not do all processing inside. This is just business, profitable business, and they have profits. But you are very right. We need to think about this.
Thank you, Roman. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Uh-huh. I see Yulia Sharon has her hand up. Yulia, would you like to ask your question?
Yes, thank you very much for such interesting report. And I have written in chat about, in your opinion, how will the law, this new law about allowing men under the age of 22 to leave the country, affect the labor migration from Ukraine and economic growth? Will it influence, and how it's in your opinion?
Thank you very much. Thank you for asking the very good question because when I was in hospital in 2023, and then I was demobilized. So together with my team, we wrote such a program called Creation of Professional Army of Ukraine. We promoted this so our main issue was, so the main message was that in the battlefield to be only professionals, not young or old guys without motivation, because motivated warrior is worth of at least two, or as per our poll, we have done some small poll interview of militaries, of experts, etc. What is how many one motivated professional equals to how many, how to say, forcibly mobilized Ukrainians? So, and we even took the minimum. One professional equals to civilians that were forcibly mobilized. And we calculated that if professional were to be created, Ukraine will have not the less combat capacity and save about 10 billion US dollars annually. This is the other project, not economic resilience. But answering your question, I am only for that all people in Ukraine to have right to in and out of Ukraine. This is not, Ukraine is not should not be a prison for anyone. But we need to provide such salaries for Ukrainian professional militaries that would not fly out of Ukraine, but will want to realize their patriotical goals as well as financial motivation. And as well as, so professional army only can win this war. As, for example, as Russians do. Russians recruit only volunteers. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Roman. There's one more question in the chat. I would like to read it quickly and then ask you to maybe provide a 1-minute answer since we need to move to the next talk. So Irina Litvin writes in the chat, you have listed the top 10 sectors of Ukraine's technology exports. What priority actions should the Ukrainian government take to support the resilience of the country's top technology export sectors during the war?
Thank you. Very briefly, defense tech. Because first, Ukraine has advantage. Ukrainian innovators created a lot of prototypes. And second, very important, that Ukraine can test these prototypes in a battlefield. This is unique advantages. For example, such very important sector like semiconductors requires a lot of billions of investments that are not possible. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Revera, for this really interesting talk. I know we all learned a lot from you, and grateful that our colleagues could join us as well. So sending a clap your way and want to say thank you once more.
Thank you.